I'm not being fresh. Oh, that's me. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I gotta put these on.
Yes, headphones on.
And you're live. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you're unmuted. I'm gonna figure out some. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to No Judgment Here. I am your host, Tish Ross. Tonight, my guest, Daniel Kithas, has agreed to share his journey on his battle with addiction, how he spiraled down, and how he got clean. Daniel, thank you for saying yes. You know, I noticed on a Facebook comment that someone had posted, you commented and said something to the effect of, I no longer am an addict because Jesus has healed you and you were saved from addiction. So you no longer identify as an addict.
Right.
And I thought, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. I found that to be like so profound to me because I was thinking, whenever people walk into whether it's a support group, and there's meetings there and people are sitting down, one of the first things is the introduction. And when the introduction comes, the person stands up and the first thing they say is, or as I've watched on movies or actually was in a women's recovery group, women recovering from everything, abuse or self-doubt, low self-esteem, addiction. But the first thing that we would say is, "Hi, my name is Tish. I am," and then the label. And so I think that whenever I noticed that comment, I thought, "Ooh, I want to have you come on and share your addiction and to also help others." Obviously, that's the main reason that we come on here, so that we can help others and talk about how you got through, talk about where you are now, and all that good stuff. So we're going to get started. Daniel, thank you for coming in again.
Excited to be here.
And I got to hear so much of your journey, your testimony, your beliefs, and I find all of them just so profound. And I'm so glad that you're here. And so I want to go ahead and start because we do have a lot to talk about. And I want to start from the very beginning. And I know we just chatted about this, but we're sharing with everyone else. So I want to start the beginning and for you to share and talk about when you became an addict or how you started using or how you were introduced to that.
Okay. Really young age. Want to give a little of a backstory first. I had great parents, loving mom, loving dad, had everything I ever needed. But I did start using drugs at the age of 10, 11, somewhere around there. Had an older brother. He's 5 years older than me. Me and my brother really had a lot of free roam. We didn't always have that parental supervision. We did a lot of whatever we wanted. We had a few rules and a few guidelines, and as long as we followed those rules in between any of that, we kind of did whatever we wanted. And, my brother started getting into drugs at the age of 16. I was a little brother, so we started sneaking out of the house, going into the backyard, getting high. And it was just a party, just having fun. Throughout high school, I did all kinds of drugs. I mean, really everything except sticking a needle in my arm and meth. Never dabbled in any of that because I was really scared of it. I had a lot of relatives and I saw the life that they lived. And to me, it was about the party. And when I saw them using the meth and shooting up heroin and things like that, that didn't look fun. So through high school, it was all about the party, the fun drugs. So I really stayed away from the hard stuff. And Even through high school, I really didn't think I had an addiction problem because I would use hard drugs like cocaine. And if I saw some sort of addictive pattern coming on, I'd be like, okay, I don't need to use that drug anymore. And I'd stop using that drug. I'd just use the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Never really felt I had an addictive or had an addiction through high school. It was just all about the party. It was all about having fun. And that never stopped. Got older, um, got in a lot of legal trouble and got put on probation. And that's whenever I was introduced to K2. And that was really the big start of my addiction.
And can you explain what is K2 for those that are listening and maybe we don't know?
It's really a fully synthetic drug. Like there's nothing natural about it. It's more chemicals than if you made meth out of your underneath your bathroom sink.
Mm.
And I was on probation and I like to smoke weed and I couldn't pass a drug test. And I was like, they
Mm.
came out with this K2 spice stuff. Hey, you can smoke this stuff, get you high like weed, you can pass a drug test. So that's what it was to me in the beginning. I could and it worked. I would go into the probation office high sometimes on the
Mm.
K2 and, oh, you got to take a drug test because obviously my probation officer could see I was high. And I would absolutely, man, when I would walk right in there and pass the drug test because it worked. But I didn't realize the journey that stuff was about to take me on at
Mm-hmm.
all. Uh, it was a hidden monster, big time.
Mm-hmm.
One sec.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my brother died. And I was actually there the night it happened and had to witness it. And just like anybody that's lost a sibling or anybody they loved, it's a hard thing to deal with when you're not using drugs. And when he died, I didn't want to commit suicide. I wasn't suicidal, didn't really have the thoughts of putting a gun to my head, but I didn't care about living either. And if I overdosed on drugs, it is what it is. And that's when the party high really stopped. Like it's not about partying anymore. It's not about having a good time. And then it became about just staying high, so I didn't have to think about David.
Okay, so using at that time or during that time was more of a way to
A coping mechanism, yes,
coping mechanism. Okay.
100%. And it spiraled out of control at that point. When a person doesn't care about anything because of how life is treating them or the cards that you're dealt or something happens, a traumatic experience, and you don't care about life, that's already a really bad situation to be in.
Mm.
And then you add drugs to the equation, which also make you not care about anything. You treat the ones that you love horribly. You do awful things to them, and you're conscious of it. You know exactly what you're doing. You just don't care.
Mm.
And sometimes you do care, but it's like, but I care about getting high more.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was like a double whammy. Loss of David, didn't care about nothing. Fully into an addiction, really didn't care about nothing. And that's a really dangerous cocktail,
Mm-hmm.
big
Mm-hmm.
time. But it got to the point where I couldn't keep a job. My relationship with my wife was on the rocks. My mom wouldn't let me come around. My dad wouldn't let me come around. And she had kicked me out, and I was living in a Ford Ranger my grandmother had given me right after my brother passed away. And sleeping in the back of the Ranger in parks, I'd break into houses that were up for sale to sleep for the night and use their shower if the water was on. And I ended up living in like essentially a drug den. One of my friends had his woman had recently taken their kid and left state, and we got left this house somehow, and we just invited everybody over that we knew did drugs, needed a place to sleep, and it was almost like a haven, and that was where my life was headed, and that was probably the beginning of me hitting my rock bottom, if you want to call it that.
So while you were, I want to back up a little bit.
Absolutely.
I know that and I love that you kind of backed up and you said that you had a great upbringing, you had great parents, you but you had a lot of, I guess, free time, a little time on your own, because parents do what they have to do in order to keep a roof over our heads and
Right.
food and clothes, and you had all that. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times people think or see a kid that has everything they want. It could be a well-off family, and the kid is strung out or is addicted or is an addict. And parents ask themselves sometimes, when a child doesn't have much, or when a parent is living paycheck to paycheck, and they're wondering if it's something that they did, is it because my kids don't have enough that they're turning to drugs and alcohol? But then you see parents of, or children of parents that have it all,
Yeah.
and they turn to using in drugs and alcohol. And as a parent myself, as a parent who lost a son to, he was clean for a year. He was clean when he passed. But as a parent of a former addict, I wondered the whole time, like,
Was it
could
something you did?
something that we did. You can't, but it's something that you can't love away. Like, I love you so much, and like, there's, just let me help you. Let me, what is it? What's wrong with you? Why can't you stop? And I know of times where all bridges were burned.
Yes.
Things were stolen left and right, and it didn't matter if it was pawning a parent's wedding ring or jewelry or grandparents' stuff, and I just wonder what was it for you? And if you know the answer, I don't know, because I even asked my son, what is it that why can't you stop? What is it that you care more, like you care, and you know right from wrong, and you know that this is like bringing you down, you're kicked out of your house, or you're having issues with your wife, or your parents are struggling to help you know that we love you and we want you off. What is it? Like, I've always wanted to ask somebody this, but then I asked my son, like, what is it? And he said, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be different for everyone.
Right.
Everyone's journey's different. Everyone's addiction's different. Everyone's rock bottom's different. Everyone's recovery's different. Everybody's reason for using is different. But my answer was, it's going to sound cold, but it was a choice. I chose it. And that's what it boiled down to for me. And that was one of the hardest things to admit to my family once I got clean, and the process of making amends and trying to rebuild those bridges that I burned, was admitting that to them. Like, no, I chose the drug over you. I knew what I was doing. I chose the high over you. I chose, I guess, essentially me over you. I thought my feelings, my hurt mattered more than the hurt that I was causing you. So sorry, and yeah, admitting that to my family when I got clean. And I don't think a lot of addicts, recovering addicts will admit that. And I think that's a big step in maturing as a person, not just as an addict, is being able to admit whenever you were fully in the wrong. Like, you were 100% just a trash person. And being able to admit that is like a sign of weakness, right? Nobody wants to admit they're weak. But when you're weak, you can still get stronger, and if you can identify and pinpoint the areas that you're weak, why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to say, okay, Daniel's really bad at communicating. Maybe I should work on it a little bit. Daniel's a jerk when he comes off to people. Maybe he should smooth over his words a little bit.
I wonder why that's so hard for men to hear. Well, men and women, but I know men that even when
it's the macho thing,
I guess, is it pride? Is it, I mean, and it's like, from a wife trying to tell a husband, hey babe, can you work on this or that? And it's not, if it's coming from a loving wife, a wife that really loves their husband, or a man that really loves his wife. If a woman or a man says, hey babe, you've changed a little bit, and can you work on this or whatnot? Why? And it's given out of love.
Hmm.
Like you said, it's so hard for people, men and women, to accept or hear or admit that they're weak. And it's something that you had said, and I'm kind of going back a little bit
Okay.
to the Facebook comment that I saw that really grabbed my interest, is that you said that you no longer identify as an addict.
Right.
Explain that to people
Okay.
that are listening.
So we'll go back to sitting in an AA room or an NA room, or any type of group setting where you have to stand up. Hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm an addict. You just admitted defeat. Like right there with those words, you admitted defeat to addiction. Hi, I'm an addict. You labeled yourself as a drug addict or an alcoholic, whatever it may be. You just lost. You just lost that battle. But to me, it goes even more deeper than that to my faith. Uh, Jesus died on the cross for all of our sins. Jesus died on the cross and gave us the power to conquer everything in this world. Addiction's not excluded from that. We just have to have the faith and really tap into it. Understand that you have the power already in you. For instance, when I pray, I don't ask Jesus for anything. I thank him for it because he already gave me everything I need thousands of years ago. The strength to overcome anything in this world. Jesus gave it to me. I don't have to ask him for it. I'm thanking him for it.
Absolutely. And I think, what the message that you send by not identifying as an addict or labeling yourself as an addict, that is the one thing I think that really was very profound for me. And that's why I was so glad that you said yes to share your journey, is because you're already taking ownership by walking into a room or a group, a recovery group. I own that I am an alcoholic, or I own that I am an addict. And I think that just speaks volumes. I think that support groups all over the place should change,
Yes.
that when someone stands up and says, my name is so and so and I'm a so and so, I love that you really just sort of, I hope, changed that for groups, because it does sound like you're weak. It does sound like it does sound like that you're defeated, that you're already defeated. I'm an addict, and so here I am.
I'm gonna have to fight this fight every day.
Right.
I lost.
Right.
Yeah. No. Jesus gave you victory. Just accept it.
Absolutely.
And relish in it too. Like just live in it. And that's what I believe, like a real relationship with Jesus, or a real understanding of what Jesus did for us on the cross, will do for you. You hear the words in churches like, believe in Jesus and he'll set you free. I believe that's what that means. Like when you really tap into the power of what Jesus, or you fully understand what Jesus did for you on the cross, like, man, I can walk through this world untouchable. Yeah, I'm still gonna have to deal with life. I'm still gonna be sad. My cousin just passed away. We just buried him, and I'm sad about it. But I also understand I'm sad about it because I'm choosing to be sad about it. I want to miss my cousin right now. I want to be sad about it. I want to mourn his death, but I'm not gonna let it defeat me because Jesus already defeated that. And I believe that there's healthy ways of, excuse me. I believe that there's certain types of depression that are healthy. Like for instance, losing a son. There was part of your depression that I'm sure you went through that you needed to go through. Living in it, letting it defeat you. No, learn from it, grow from it, and become stronger from it. That's what Jesus did for us.
Absolutely. And to kind of go back with hitting your rock bottom, we want to talk about how I know that you speak so highly of your beautiful family, your wife and your mom and your children, but you had chatted about, we were talking about earlier, that you didn't really have a drug of choice. That most of the time, you, again, like you had said, you would do a certain drug for a while, and then once you felt like you were getting to kind of focused on that one drug, then you would stop doing that and you would do something else.
Right.
And so tell us about your journey to your rock bottom.
Okay. So I'll back up to high school,
Mhm.
and um, throughout the '90s, there was a there pharmaceutical pills were just extremely accessible. You could walk into any pain clinic and say, "I got a torn rotator cuff I've been dealing with 2 years, and here's a prescription for OxyContin." Um, it was all over the streets. Really, at one point in time, pills got more accessible than marijuana is
Mm.
for a kid in high school. It was everywhere. It was rampant. So yeah, I mean, I did all kinds of drugs. Really got into pills heavy in high school. Um, but even like OxyContin, we would crush them up and snort them, and that's a really, really strong drug. It's literally synthetic heroin, and I got to the point to where I was like, man, I'm doing this too much, or it's all I'm thinking about. And I saw those addictive traits coming, and I put it down and walked away from it. Didn't have an issue with it at all. Like I said, it wasn't until the introduction of K2 and my brother where my addiction really started spiraling out of control. Um, Sorry, you had said something and made a point that I wanted to come back to. And anyways,
But one thing that you had said when we were chatting, you said that you don't even really remember high school or how
oh
you even
yeah,
graduated from high school.
yeah. So I stayed high, like really, really high all through high school. I don't even really, if I was in class and remember being in class, I remember being asleep through class if I was even there. Uh, didn't Don't know how I got a high school diploma, and this is kind of funny. I went to CLC Crowley Learning Center to get my diploma, and once I earned my credits, they'd handed me a diploma, and then I went back or a few months later in the summer, they did a late award ceremony or graduation ceremony for people who graduated late, and they included me in it. Walked the stage, they handed me another diploma, so I actually have two diplomas and don't even know how I earned one of them. But that's how high I stayed always. So I mean, I was in my addiction then, just didn't know it. Uh, I was just consumed in it. And I was just bouncing from one drug. Okay, this one's scaring me. I'm diving too deep into it. Let's move to this one and play with that one. And I played the field forever. And it was never really an issue. I was never really out of control. I never started stealing from anybody until the K2 hit. And then obviously the death of my brother really, really hit me hard. And I didn't deal with it well. I didn't cope with it really at all. I just wanted to mask it.
Mm.
Um, would break into my mom's house and steal her jewelry and pawn it. I had access to my dad's computer at his company, and I would print myself bonus checks that I didn't earn and go cash them. And I'd print $500 checks and go blow it on K2 immediately.
Mm.
Me and my wife got married for a period where I'd gone through an AA program, and at our wedding, we got a bunch of gift cards for whatever we wanted to spend it on, a new house. And we decided we were going to save it on. It was probably $10,000 in Visa gift cards. And I spent every dime of it on K2, every dime of it. I tell my wife all the time, she's a unicorn, man. She's stood by my side through everything. She's pretty smart. She's a great mom. And I ask her all the time, I mean, why did you stay by my side? Why were you there? She same answer every time. She says she saw the man that I was, not the man that was in front of her at the time. And I don't get that, I mean, but I was doing so much wrong to you. I did so much bad to everyone that loved me, my mom, my dad, my grandmother. I stole from everyone I knew. I would lie, manipulate, tell them I needed gas, had a full tank, just so I could get drugs. Guess we can move along towards the rock
Sure.
bottom.
So yes, absolutely. And I remember that you had said that you had you and your friends
Mhm.
had all gone to one of your friends' houses.
Yeah. So we congregated to this house, and there was a bunch of people there using drugs. And at the time, one of the friend who introduced us to the house had started using meth, and so that was in there. And slowly, everyone started disappearing. Though, like even Cody had been gone for months, and next thing you know, there's only three of us. Then there's only two of us. Next thing you know, I'm in this house by myself. The electricity's cut off. The water doesn't run. And I'm just surrounded by like drugs, empty bags. And I just accepted, like, okay, this is what my life is. Everything I watched my uncles do my entire life. That's what I've become. That's who I am.
Mm.
And sitting there in my own misery, I remembered this place that my wife, my dad, and my mom, they came and kidnapped me one time from this. They tracked me down and found where I was staying, and they took me to this place in Northside and dropped me off. It was a men's home. They tried to drop me off, but the rules at this place where they weren't going to hold you. If you wanted to leave, you could leave. And so I was like, yeah, I'll stay, just get out of here and leave. But they knew better, so they wouldn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
I sat in the middle of the street with this dude for an hour and a half. He's a good friend of mine. His name's Chris Houston. He's up in Oklahoma, and uh, he didn't know me from Adam. And he sat in the freezing cold. I remember it was 30 degrees outside. He had no shoes on, basketball shorts, and a tank top, and begging me to come into this place and give God a chance. And finally, after sitting there for an hour and a half, I just wanted this dude to shut up. Really, my high was wearing off. I was like, I need to go smoke something. So I just gave him an empty promise. And he asked me if whenever you're ready to get help or give God a chance, will you come back here? And I was like, sure, man, whatever. I never intended on keeping that promise ever. But sitting at that home, I mean, it's kind of a weird feeling when you're in a den full of drug addicts and you're the only one left. You know what I mean? Like, even they're too good to be with you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, you're sitting there like, man, I'm that bad in my addiction. Like, all these other drug addicts don't even want to hang out with me. And sitting there in my misery, I said, I guess this is my last option. So I picked up the phone and I called Lindsay. It was like 4:00 in the morning.
And Lindsay is your wife.
Lindsay's my wife, yes. And said, hey, do you remember that place that y'all tried to take me to? And she said, yeah. I said, well, will you come pick me up? And she left. She packed up a bunch of my clothes, left, came, picked me up, and she dropped me off on the front porch. And when she was leaving, she said, Daniel, if you don't give God a real chance, a real one, not a half-assed one, not a fake it till you make it, say the right words, give God a real chance. And that was key there, the word give God a real chance. But that's all she said. She just walked away. She didn't even give me a chance to answer. She just walked away and got in her car. And here I was standing on the front of this place, all these crazy people telling me that God was going to save me and expect a miracle. And I was going to give God a chance because it was either that or go back to that house that I was staying in and accepting that I was just going to be a drug addict for the rest of my life. So my rock bottom was, I guess, loneliness when everybody had given up. And I guess that's what I needed, was a little bit of tough love. Nobody else was there. I was all alone, and it was like nobody's going to help me crawl out of it anymore. Not even my drug addict friends are around. So that was my rock bottom. That was my ultimate low. And to paint it a little broader, I was on felony probation at the time, and to get money for my addiction, I would go to rich neighborhoods and I'd drive around and see landscapers mowing people's yards. And whenever they would go to the backyard, I'd pull up next to their truck, throw all their stuff in the bed of my truck, and I'd take it across town, pawn it. One time we found out there was this smoke shop all the way on the other side of town, and they sold K2. So we went up there like 3:00 in the morning, and we drove a pickup truck through the front of the building, ran in there, stole their K2, and ran out. I mean, we had like a box of it. It was gone that night.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was on felony probation and still committing major crimes, risking going to prison. And that wasn't my rock bottom. My rock bottom was, it's either this or death. It's either this or, I mean, I got to give something else a try, a real try. And that's how my journey to recovery begins. I take that back. That's how my part of my journey to recovery begins, because I had my mom and my wife and my family, that everyone that loved me, that had been trying to jumpstart this recovery process for some years. So I guess my part of the recovery began. And when I got into this home, it was faith-based and it was very culty, very hierarchy schemed. But I focused on what Lindsay had told me: give God a chance, not the man that's up there teaching me, not the man behind the pulpit. Give God a chance. And I grew up in church. I'm sure I knew all the books of the Bible. I could quote them all before I could count to 100. Like I grew up in church. I know the scripture really well, and I would hear what these people are saying, and then I would bring it to God, and I would bring it to God, and I started getting frustrated, uh, even to the point to where in prayer time we'd do these ceremonies like 5 times a day. We'd play music as loud as you could for an hour, and we'd all get on our knees and pray to God at the top of our lungs. Very seancey. It was very weird, and sometimes I would just tune it out, take a nap. Other times I would try to pray and like, all right, God, try this prayer thing.
Mhm.
Talk to me, and and I would. There's a ball over there. God, move it.
Mhm.
And I would be almost cocky, like mocking God, and like, if you're real, let's try this prayer thing. I mean, never heard God talk. Uh, Never seen any real evidence of proof of God, and I'd never had like what they call that burning bush experience.
Right.
Never had like a real faith. I mean, like a real like emotional, life changing experience with God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit or anything like that. Even though I'd grown up in church, and one day I was sitting there in prayer, and I was mocking God, like, if you're real, make me not addicted anymore. Make me not want to leave this place and go get high. Speak to me. Let me hear your voice. And it was weird. I try to describe it to people when Saul had the scales over his eyes.
Mhm.
And when the scales were removed, it says that he could see for the first time in his entire life. Well, that's how I felt all of a sudden in prayer. It clicked. I'm asking for something I already have.
Mm.
I'm asking to hear God's voice. I hear God's voice every day when you wake up. When you feel that tug on your heart, when you're doing something bad and you feel that guilt, that's the Holy Spirit telling you, hey, that's not the right thing to do. Um, when that clicked right there in prayer, it broke me. And it was almost like an immediate effect, like when the scales removed from Saul's eyes and he could see for the first time. That's how I felt. All of a sudden, the weight of everything just crashed upon me. And I really felt for the first time the pain that I'd caused my family that day, too.
Mm.
Uh, that was that's one thing I'll always hold on to. And that's one thing that I don't understand about an addict who really recovers. Uh, Someone who walks the journey and builds their life back, gets a clear mind for years, and then goes back to addiction. Uh, I don't understand that concept because I will never forget the pain. It's like God just dumped it on my shoulders, the weight of it on my chest, and it was just like, here's what you did to everybody, man. Now that you can finally understand what I've been trying to say to you, He let me feel. And I'll never forget that feeling. I'll never forget that hurt, that pain that I caused my wife, my mom, my dad, and my grandmother, everyone around me. And I don't know if I wouldn't say it's like a crutch I lean on, like, okay, this is what keeps me clean. Absolutely not. What keeps me clean is my faith that Jesus died on the cross to beat addiction. I don't have to fight this fight anymore. I don't have to, it's not my fight to fight unless I choose it, unless I want it. And that's really the only thing that explains somebody returning to addiction if they get clean with faith in Jesus Christ is you laid it down at the feet of the cross and you picked it back up.
Right.
Like, and I don't understand how someone can lose sight of that. You know what I mean? Especially from an addict that's been through what I've been through. Man, it's hard to lose focus. You know what I mean? I don't understand how somebody could backpedal like that. And
But
I do understand it happens a lot though.
yes.
It
And do
does.
you think that, so let me ask you this. This might be a tough one. So you said that you were clean for a while when you and your,
When me and Lindsay got married.
yes, you
Yeah.
guys got married. So what made you,
Um
so you hadn't found,
no,
you had not
I
had a
didn't have
relationship with God.
I didn't have a real relationship with Jesus Christ, no ma'am. And that was a 12-step program. I went through a rehab. Probation made me go through a rehab because I had too many failed UAs. And I really tried that time. Like, I tried to work the steps. I think I made it to like step 8. Um, really wholeheartedly gave it a shot, but I didn't have faith. Like
Okay.
I didn't center my recovery in the fact that Jesus already gave me victory.
Mhm.
I was trying to do it on my own understanding,
Gotcha.
uh,
Okay.
and I failed in that aspect because I thought I could still do like the fun drugs that I used to do back in high school. Like, oh, I only had a problem with the K2. I can still do the rest of them. Started doing the rest of them. I say, I'm at the gas station buying some K2.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, I think it was about a year and a half I was clean when me and Lindsay had gotten married. Um, and things were good. Things were really good for a while, and I had no reason to start using again. I was still going through a lot of the grief process after losing David and all that for sure. I definitely wasn't over it, but I didn't go back to drugs because of another traumatic experience or anything like that. It was just because I thought I was strong enough.
Okay.
Uh, but it was because I was using my power.
Right.
I was using the wrong power. I didn't realize. I guess, yeah, I guess I didn't realize the power that was in me. Definitely didn't. Um, my my faith wasn't there.
So
Uh,
it wasn't until you had a real relationship with the
Jesus,
Lord, you really opened up and met him.
yeah,
He met you where you were at, but you met him.
yeah. I got a recollection for who he really was and what he really did for us.
Hmm.
Like what he really did for us. Like he didn't just die, y'all. I mean, he gave us power over everything.
Hmm.
He gave us
Hmm.
victory over everything. It's just your choice. So,
Absolutely. And one of the other questions that I wanted to ask you, and we haven't gone to commercial break because we're having some difficulties here. And you that are listening, I see a couple of comments. So please, if you can hear us, please let us know. If not, obviously this will be okay. You can hear us now. Okay. I certainly hope that you guys have not missed a lot of what Daniel has said. I believe that it has been recorded. And if you can mention in the comments if you guys have missed some of his story, please let me know. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I see now the feed is going back up, is what would you, Daniel, say to parents and children that are struggling with maybe a parent that is struggling with a child that is starting to use? And again, and I know that you make such a great point in that everybody's addiction is different, everybody's journey is different. And so giving advice it can be difficult because everybody's advice or approaches may work for some, may not work for somebody else.
all right.
But we do know the one thing that does work, and that is a relationship with Jesus Christ. That is first and foremost. And that, I believe, is the foundation that parents need to
Amen.
work on. That is what,
Yeah.
because, as much as when you and I were chatting and you said that your mom was just really, she was stubborn and she wanted to make sure that you're okay and that you were well and everything. But one of the things that, if I'm misquoting, please let me know. But is that she really did give you guys the opportunity to go to church and to know the
Mhm.
Lord, and that she wanted to that foundation for her children. So, what would you say to parents that are struggling with children that maybe you got a 10-year-old that's in the back that knows right from wrong, but still trying, and then it becomes an addiction?
Yeah.
What could you, I mean, again, everything is different, works differently for everyone else, but what might you say?
From my experience, well, first off, I just want to say I'm sorry for everything that you have to go through if you have a kid that's in addiction. Um, what I put my family through, I wish I could take back a million times over. And the pain and the hurt that you're going to go through isn't deserved. So first, I want to say I'm sorry on behalf of all ex-drug addicts. But then, from my experience, I want to make sure I word this correctly. I don't really
Yes.
want to offend anybody by this,
Right.
because, like I
And
said, I don't know anybody's story. I just know mine,
right.
and I don't know how your relationship with you and your kid is. I just know what happened whenever I was growing up, and like I said, I had a very loving mom and a very loving dad, but they were busy a lot. Uh, my dad, all he did was work 90 hours a week. It seemed like my mom was a mother at 17 years old, dropped out of high school, and went straight to the workforce, and that's all she's ever known.
Mm,
Um, be involved with your kids. Do things they want to do, not just that you want to do. I'm a father, a proud father of two little girls, and all my whole life, all I ever wanted was boys. But because of my past and my history, since I had girls, it's like, okay, I don't mind getting down on the floor and painting my nails. I don't care if I have to watch 20 episodes of Paw Patrol, and I've beaten every level to the video game and gotten all the little paws, and because that's what my little girls wanted to do. And yeah, I was extremely bored for 2 hours playing that game that literally took zero IQ to beat, but it was what they wanted to do. Um, it's not about what you want to do, you know. It's not about making your kid into the person that you want them to be. It's about letting them be who they want to be,
absolutely.
seeing their interests and getting involved with it, making their interest a part of your life, not the other way around.
Right.
Um, and again, I want to put it out there. My parents didn't fail me. Um, I just believe that if I was pushed more as a kid, I wouldn't have been so bored. Uh, I wouldn't have needed to chase that party all the time. And I believe I was an exceptional case, as far as raising me. I was all over the place. Uh, I knew how to work a computer at third grade better than any both of my parents. You know, I was a little bit ahead of them in this world of technology, and
Hmm.
then a lot with the sports. My, like I said, they were just always working, so they didn't come to my baseball games. They didn't come to my basketball games. My mom did. My dad did not. But like I said, I'm not trying to fault them or pinpoint that, hey, they're the cause of my
Right.
downfall to addiction, because at the end of the day, even at 10 years old, I knew sneaking out in the backyard and getting high with my brother, we were doing wrong.
Hmm. Hmm.
We weren't supposed to go back there. And I knew if our parents caught us, we'd be getting in trouble. So I'm not like, for the viewers out there, I don't want y'all to think that I'm trying to blame my upbringing. Um, I'm just, if you have a kid that's going down that road, be more involved in what they enjoy,
Hmm.
what they like to do, their hobbies. I'm not saying that's the answer.
Right.
I'm just saying that that's probably a good direction to head.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and to the kids, oh man, it's hard to give advice to a 10-year-old because all a 10-year-old wants to do is have fun. Uh, and unfortunately, we live in a world where getting high, getting drunk is glorified. I mean, in our music, TV shows, everywhere you turn, it's right in our face. So it's kind of hard to say, hey, that's not fun.
Mm.
It's kind of hard to tell a 10-year-old, hey, man, don't trust me. Those drugs you're about to get into, it's not fun, because the rest of the world is telling them when it is. So it's hard to give advice to a 10-year-old.
You're right. You're so right. In the ways of this world, that it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that sex, drugs, money, status,
Status.
even on social media,
Yes.
right? So someone who can be addicted to social media might not look themselves, may not be, maybe their self-esteem drops because they didn't get that many likes on a certain picture, and everything on social media is so perfect and
Yeah.
every or made to look perfect when it's really not. And that's one of the reasons why my hat is so off to, especially lately, I've had a lot of men come on to share their journey, and I'm not one who for my radio show is one who is seeking a bunch of likes and views and things like that. My hope is that I have a lot of views so that someone somewhere who may not be going through it now, may not go, may themselves not go through it, but may know somebody in the future that might go through it, that whatever person comes on, male or female, that shares their journey, it may give them some sort of peek
Hope.
into the future, a little bit of hope, maybe an idea of something to maybe try or not try, and the other thing that you said when we were chatting is that sometimes, and we're not here to bash anybody, we're not here to put anybody down or belittle or anything like that, but sometimes a big house, maybe a bigger house than you really need, or a nicer car than you really need, is something that you don't really need.
Right. So, as parents, we're so quick to get caught up with providing. I want to give my kid 20 iPhones, the new TV, 5 pairs of the brand new Nikes that were on Facebook because I want my kid to fit in at school.
Mm,
And then it's even a status thing with the vehicles we drive, the clothing we wear as parents. I mean, it goes everywhere, but yeah, baby, you don't need to work them extra hours so you can make that extra money so you can provide those things for your kids. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about the crap you get them. They're going to throw it away next year and forget about it. They care about the time they spend with you.
absolutely. You got a couple of comments here I'm going to read. I was kind of reading through some of them, and I'm going to go back to the beginning. If you guys have questions, now that I can see you guys, I'm so glad that we got that fixed. But if you have questions or comments of love, please let us know. I'm glad that you guys were able to hear. I know it's more interesting when you can see, but if you have questions or comments, please let us know. So let's see here. There's a comment from a gentleman. His name is Jeff Burr. He said the synthetic stuff is bad. I used something like that, but in a e-cig. Mike Ross says, I've been there through some difficult times and good times. You are correct in stating that it is a choice. Irene Hayworth says, I can see you guys in here now. I was able to hear all the audio from the start. I absolutely love Daniel's beautiful testimony.
Thanks, Irene.
Mike Ross says, yes, everyone's journey is different. And yes, I feel it's the person's choice. I have been through some hell and I chose to mask and cover my troubles. But I also thank God that I was able to see and realize that I had a choice of which road I could take. Now I can look at some of those friends and that chose that to take the other path, and that could have clearly and easily been me.
Right. I want to make a comment on
Sure.
that. That's good stuff right there, man. And that's kind of my point. We're taught once an addict, always an addict, and that's what we're not left with a choice. You don't get a choice. You don't get a way out. You're an addict. You have a disease that you're gonna have to fight for the rest of your life. And who wants to? We all already lost if that's the case because everyone's addicted to something. Right now, I mean, America's addicted to fast food, and it's slowly killing a lot of people. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. We're not left with a choice, but you do have a choice. Choice is always yours, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Jesus gave you that power to
He
make
did.
the choice.
He did. He gives us the choice.
Right.
Stephanie Kithas says she is very proud of you, Daniel. Ashley Jackson says, Daniel, you and your family are a blessing to know. And you're right that, a lot of people forget that the Lord is so good that he did give us choices. He gave us choices. And when you listen to, like you said, when you listen to yourself, when you make the choices yourself without praying about or asking God to guide you, those choices can lead us down some of the most difficult paths. But the good thing is that you found Jesus and you're here today to give people hope, to let them know that Jesus is real and that you were in a drug house yourself and God was with you the whole time. And
I had a praying mama.
You had a praying mama. You do. I know her. I love her. And you have an incredible wife.
I do.
That the beautiful thing was when we were chatting earlier and that you had shared that you didn't know why your wife had stayed with you and by your side through all of this because you guys didn't even have kids.
Right.
But the thing that she said was that she saw you. She knows who you are, who you could be and can be. And I love the fact that she didn't give you I love the fact that she gave you an ultimatum. Whenever she dropped you off and she said, "This is it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't go in and find a real and try to find that real relationship with Jesus, I'm out."
Yeah.
And a beautiful thing that you said is that when you found him and it was a point when you were praying
Mm-hmm.
that you began sobbing.
I did. I cried like a baby. I mean, like I just couldn't control it. It was just, yeah, all over the floor, tears. I mean, I was down on my knees in like a fetal position already. We were doing prayer, so everybody was already in that position. And luckily, the music was up so loud nobody could tell I was sitting there bawling, and I didn't tell anybody. I dried my tears out before everybody got up and they turned the lights on. But yeah, I did just weeped like a real weep. Probably the first time I'd cried like that. I mean, I don't even think I cried that hard at David's funeral.
Mm.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I asked for my burning bush experience, and God slammed it on me.
That is so incredible. I mean, I think that um, obviously for any of us that try things on our own, and believe me, I know that all of us have, and we still do. I mean, there's days when I can embarrassingly or shamefully say that I can start my morning off in the Word, and it does start my day off great. But every day I sin and I just fall back and on an approach, on a response, on a look, on a comment, and none of those things would have happened if I would have just consulted, with our Father and think, I want to love like Jesus. I want to love others and speak to others the way that Jesus does and make my decisions based on how Jesus leads me and guides me. And yes, he gives us the choice, but I want to make my choices with the Lord. And another comment that you have here is when you were speaking on material things, Mike Ross says, "Truth, Daniel." I actually have a couple of comments. I could put my glasses on. Sorry. "Truth, Daniel, our time spent with our kids is way more precious than any material things. Life is a lot better with some clarity than living in an addictive, distorted world." And I can say too, even just speaking for myself, and when we lost our son Ben, there was a time when after we lost him, instead of trying to deal with the pain, and it's excruciating to lose a child, it's excruciating to lose a sibling, it's excruciating to lose a parent. But there was a time when we lost Ben, and that I decided that I was just going to go ahead and just drink my feelings away. And Mike and I were around a little campfire that we had outside, and this is, believe it or not, but that God had told Mike through Ben to tell me to stop, that this is not, you better stop. And this is not how you are to grieve. And there were a couple times I did try to cope with my grief that way. And it's the reason why I don't drink anymore today, because I can't. I'll go into a fog or not remember. And I just feel like that was just the Lord saving me again from decisions that I was trying to take and make on my own. But before we go, Daniel, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I want to ask you, who is Daniel Kithas today?
Definitely the thing that makes me the most proud is Daniel Kithas today is a dad, a father, to the most beautiful little blessings. That's the thing that I live for. Wake up every morning, makes getting up easier. is being a daddy, being a real daddy, not just a father. Being an influence, a best friend, someone that they know that they can depend on and count on, someone that they can talk to about anything, literally anything. I don't want to be the presence of what's the word I'm looking for? Discipline in their life. I want to have a real relationship with my kids, and that's who Daniel is today as a daddy.
And you've been, and one thing that you said that was pretty cool, and we're about to go off, but you said that you have not used or anything for about 8 years or so.
About 8 years, yeah.
Well, and I know you don't choose to celebrate that because, like you said, it's something that you should already be doing. But
Right.
I commend you for making that choice. I thank God that He found you,
Yeah,
and
me too.
that you're here today and that you shared. We so appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You guys have a good night, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining us.
All right.
Of course, we would have had technical difficulties. Damn it.
Are we still live?
We're off now. We're off. The mic is off. And I'm going to try to end the stream. This isn't working. No, it's not.
Well, that went really well.
Did.
I was like shaking at first. I had to like control my breathing.
It's hard. I know it is. It's it is so. I think at first, even for me, as I come in, because I'm my prayer. I'm praying in my head like the whole time, thinking, okay, please just use this, and so I get a little nervous myself, thinking, am I?
It's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility. It is a big responsibility, and so I still get a little anxious. And the crazy thing about I've already been doing this for like a year and a half now is I still have to type out my intro.
Yeah.
I still have to type out, don't say I swear I've been doing that now for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
As long as I've been here on the radio. I still have to say, I still have to type out, good evening, everyone, and welcome to No Judgment here. I'm your host, Tish. I still have to do that because
Yeah.
I'd freak. But I think that went so well. It was so good.
I felt good about it. Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Good. I'm so glad that
I hope somebody heard it.
Oh, they did. I know they did, and they'll hear it. Continue to hear it as Joko goes on, and they'll share the broadcast again and again, and then it's also on YouTube, and we'll share it on YouTube.
Okay.
And so yeah, it'll lots of people will hear it.
Awesome.
It's so good. I'm so proud of you. So amazing. And
all right. I've never done anything like that before.
Really?
The most I've ever done. So while I was in this men's home, they were really big on humiliating people, like you. Really, they would. And they knew I didn't like public speaking. And one time we were on a city bus, and they made me stand up in front of the whole bus and give my testimony driving through downtown Fort Worth. Wow. It was like a trembling experience.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever really.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, and you have such a great one. I mean, all testimonies are great, right?
Yeah.
And it's.
I tell Emily all the time that she has the most rare testimony of all.
Really?
Yeah, I said, you never strayed.
You
never messed up in life.
That's Tristan. And
millions of us screwed up and recovered. Like maybe 100 of us never messed up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's rare to meet somebody that never did any wrong, never broke the law, never snuck behind their parents' back and got drunk and You don't meet those people.
That is just.
I admire that testimony. Like,
Well,
that's
it-
impressive.
It is, and me and Caroline and Tristan were talking about that just last night. We were
Oh, really?
talking about, that we were talking about what's the worst thing that you've ever done, and I was like, oh gosh, well, okay, well, let me just tell you everything.
Yeah, you're a wild child.
I was. Let me just tell you all the things. Of course, I had told them a lot of things that I had done before. Let me just tell you this last thing. I'm clean, I'm good. So I shared, and then I asked Tristan again. We've had these conversations before, and I said, "Hey, son, you heard it all. You know, like, and I know it. And he's like, I had 2 beers and about 2 beers, and like
Wow.
he just he's always been on that path.
Yeah.
And what's funny is your mom and myself always said that we would get together, because they're just like the same person. But and we know that she's happy married and have a baby.